ordinance number 175-2022. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Fry.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 180-2022, presented by Mrs. Thompson. Title, Enter into Agreement, Magic Marketplace, LLC. A resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a development agreement between the city and DR Magic Marketplace, LLC, concerning the redevelopment of certain real property located in the city and declaring an emergency. This is the second reading. The first reading was on December 12th, 2022.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mrs. Angela?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second that on suspension.
It's okay. It's the last day of the year for us. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Fry.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 180-2022.
Thank you. Mrs. Angela?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion for adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff to adopt ordinance number 180-2022. Are there any remarks? As president, I would just like to thank legal and everybody involved on getting that straightened out. It's good to have done before the end of the year. So with any other remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn.
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey.
Yes.
Mrs. Fry.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
This ends the second reading.
Third reading of ordinances and resolutions.
We have none.
Appointments.
We have one. To the Barberton Community Foundation, Ms. Ann Hutchinson, to begin on January 19th, 2023, for a 3-year term as a board member ending December 31st, 2026.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to appoint Mrs. Ann Hutcherson? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to appoint Miss Ann Hutchinson to the Barberton Community Foundation Board.
Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Coburn?
I second that motion to appoint Miss Ann Hutchinson to the Barberton Community Foundation.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to appoint Mrs. Ann Hutchinson as a board member of the Barberton Community Foundation. Are there any remarks?
We're adding.
Ms. Angela?
To begin 2023, so it's all of 23, all of 24, all of 25. Should that be December 31st, 2025?
23, 24, that's correct. What's your, Heidick?
2026.
It's a 3-year term.
It's a 3-year.
Yeah,
When I got to the Community Foundation, they gave me these dates, but she's right.
Yeah.
This is what they sent me in an email, but she's right, it is a 3-year
You have
term.
to tell it first year.
It would be for Miss Ann Hutchinson to begin January 19th, 2023, for a 3-year term as a board member to begin January 19th, 2023, ending December 31st, 2025.
okay.
Is that right? All of 23, all of 24, all of
Right.
25.
Yep, I just went by the dates they
So-
emailed me, so
Yeah.
she's right.
Okay.
So it would be-
2025.
It would end at the end of 25. That would be
Right.
3 years.
They'd have to appoint her.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Angeloff and
Yes,
Mrs.
thank
Coburn, for pointing that out. Do you want to reread that?
I can. It is an appointment to the Barberton Community Foundation for Miss Ann Hutchinson to begin January 19, 2023, for a 3-year term as a board member ending December 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Now, do we have a motion to appoint Mrs. Ann Hutcherson with the latest terms? Mr. Heddick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment of Miss Ann Hutchison to the Barberton Community Foundation Board.
Thank you. Is there a second,
I'll
Ms. Coburn?
second that.
A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Coburn to appoint Mrs. Ann Hutchison as a board member of the Barberton Community Foundation. Are there any remarks? Thank you guys again, Mrs. Angeloff and Mrs. Coburn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The appointment and motion carries. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. Is there anything from the body? Mrs. Fry?
Thank you. I would just like to say that last week, when the mayor informed us that the $68,000 from the CDBG fund would be reimbursed to the city because of the confusion that was caused, and other communities also made that same mistake, nobody in this room said anything about that. And I think it's really nice that that happened. And I think that somehow we should get that out to the community, because there was such a backlash because of this error that turns out not to be an error. So I just wanted to mention that. And I know that our reporter from the Herald is not here tonight, but I think that they should be informed that the $68,000 was returned to the city. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Fry. Is there anything else from the body? I would just like to say thank you for the first year. It's been a learning curve. Mrs. Fry, thank you for being vice president. I call her a lot, or we've had a lot of chats. So, the next meeting will be January 3rd. That's going to be a Tuesday, and that'll be the first committee of the whole meeting for 2023. Any body members? Anything from department heads? And this will be the last time I say anything, so I wish you guys a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank everyone who attended my open office hours this past Saturday. Lots of good feedback and questions surrounding some of the current and future projects that we've been working on. A few issues, but fairly minor in complexity. I want to thank everyone. And then yesterday, Elves and More paid a visit to the Magic City. Great to see all the smiles and great comments from the kids and the parents. 400 bikes went fairly quickly, even in the cold weather. But I was honored to be a part of it, and a ton of great feedback. And in talking to some of the volunteers with Elves and More, Barberton is one of the communities that they go into that's the most appreciative, and they noted that. So, just want to thank everyone from Elves and More, everyone from the Barberton Police Department, everyone from all the volunteers that were there. And I was there, found out about it. Everything's top secret, right? So I was there for just a snippet of it, but it's a year-long process of raising funds, of ordering the bikes, getting the bikes in, assembling the bikes, storing the bikes, and then transporting the bikes. So a lot goes into an event that lasts about 2 hours, right? It goes very quickly, but what an awesome display. Received a package today in my office from a lady in Pennsylvania who sent a bunch of old pictures and postcards of Barberton and different businesses in Barberton. Her husband and his family were from here. It's a very interesting connection. Her husband has passed, and she had these, and she wanted them to go into a good place, so she sent them to my office. So pretty cool to take a look back at some of the different factories, and the postcards are in mint condition. And it's funny because one's in that building and looks exactly the same. But pretty cool. So, with the last meeting of 22 and the start of 23 coming around the corner here, we have made so many great strides, and I want to thank you on just very systematic, positive and influential way and direction that the city's moving. The future is bright, and it's very exciting to be a part of it. There are some exciting projects and programs that we've been working on for next year, and I can't think of a time when the city had so many positive projects going on. So developments, housing, commercial, industrial, infrastructure, investments into residential, commercial, and industrial properties, new businesses, expansions, all these great things. The infrastructure, if you look at just even tonight, 4 major projects for next year. And you guys have already passed legislation. There's 2 more for AMATs that will start next year, and then also the reconstruction of South Van Buren. So there's 7 projects just on kind of the road resurfacing, plus 3 or 4 on stormwater that should start next year. Just very, very exciting. So look forward to next year. Look forward to working with you guys. And if you have any questions over the break, please don't hesitate to call or stop in or email or what have you. We'll be here. And just looking forward to 23 in the future. So with that, Merry Christmas. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Harding?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Thompson? It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Didn't think so. This meeting is adjourned at 6:24 PM.